Anda kembali menyaksikan Money Talks bersama saya, Andi Shalini. Dan kami lanjutkan kembali perbincangan bersama dengan Head of DBS Foundation, Karen Ngui. Karen, let's continue our discussion. As we know, women play a crucial role in Indonesia economy. Based on statistics show that 1 in 10 workers is a female breadwinner, and nearly 80% of them are aged 60 or above. So how does DBS view the urgency of women empowerment, and what concrete actions has DBS taken to support women, especially those from vulnerable groups?
Yeah, I think women are the bedrock of families and of communities and of society at large. So it's something that we believe that it's very important to support, and we've got many terrific partners that we've worked with. So for example, we've worked with Asia Foundation to support over 80,000 women from vulnerable backgrounds, and we also work with Mercy Corps to support another 40,000 women. We want them to basically understand basic business planning, financial planning kind of principles, such that they can better actually support their families, and importantly, also impact the next generation, because these are also women and also older women. So equally important are also youth of today, because youth of today will also become seniors of tomorrow. And that's why we also work with other organizations, for example, such as Decoding and also Plan Indonesia, to support over like 200,000 youth with regards to their financial literacy skills, digital literacy, and actually enabling them to actually grow and better kind of bring forth, the next generation of business people in their society. So that's why I said earlier on, this is long term, and it's from one generation to another, and that's the only way that we can effect a systemic change on a scalable and sustainable way. Yeah.
And from those initiatives, could you elaborate more the actions with those women empowerment, such as business and also financial skill background?
These are actually largely workshops and programs that we've just started to roll out from last year, and some of them are actually being rolled out as we speak. We have actually impact measurement targets, theory of change frameworks that we've put in place for each of our programs. And it's important that, that we ensure that initially the outputs are on track. So the more initial bits are the number of people reached, how many programs we've rolled out. And then subsequently, then we will track actually how does that actually translate into actual outcomes, improve business outcomes, improve financial literacy skills, and largely improved quality of life.
Do you found any challenge or obstacles from that?
I think it's still early days for us in these programs, and we're grateful for having great partners on the ground. But largely, I think it's a mindset thing.
Okay.
So I think it's how do we shift mindsets, because in some cases they've been doing what they're doing for many years already, and how to effect that change. And also now with everyone, and Indonesia is so advanced digitally, how do we ensure that they're able to acquire those skill sets? Because many of these communities are underbanked. Right, and so we need to help them to understand basic digital literacy skills, such that eventually they can open bank accounts and start to actually have a proper banking kind of access, such that then over time can improve their state of financial health. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So eventually, we'll increasing also financial literacy, right?
Yes.
As we know, many Asian countries are expecting an aging population. So how does DBS see this demographic shift impacting the economy, and what is DBS doing to support seniors, help younger generation prepare for age, and maintain economic growth as aging becomes a larger national challenge?
Yeah. It's often time when the subject of aging is brought up, people tend to think of just the aged. But I think there's a difference between aging societies and only the aged people. Because if you look in many countries, and I'm from Singapore, so in Singapore, 20 years ago, the pyramid was like a triangle, where there's more younger people below and lesser older people on top. Now this pyramid is slowly starting to look more like a pipe. Whereby there's, as many younger people as there are older people. If you kind of look at it, 10, 20 years down the road, that pyramid would become an inverted pyramid, meaning there are less younger people than there are older people. So Singapore is becoming super aged next year, meaning more than 1 in 5 are age 65 and above. And therefore, with that comes an opportunity not just a challenge, but an opportunity to better serve them, better understand their needs. And so the silver economy actually is something that is still relatively untapped. There is a longevity dividend. Seniors, for example, like myself, are still willing and able to contribute to society. And so how do we harness this energy? Indonesia is still relatively young. However, because Indonesia is such a large country, the sheer absolute numbers of seniors is still quite large. So I think you should take advantage of Indonesia's youth and start to put in place plans, programs to actually better harness this longevity dividend.
And what are DBS movement to make sure that younger generation prepare for their old age?
Yes. I think, people tend to think that retirement thinking or retirement planning happens later. But actually, the sooner you start, the better, the compounding value of money. Thinking about, in your 20s, when you first start working, to start saving and putting money aside. So financial literacy is very important. And the earlier one starts, the better. So for at DBS Foundation, we also partner tertiary institutions, institutes of technical education, to actually equip people with good education and also with that transition skills to then go and get good jobs or transition to the workforce, and at the same time learn financial planning. Yeah, so I think that's really important. These are some basic skills that need not be kept, need not be deprioritized until later life.
Do you see any differences between aging population in Indonesia compared to Singapore?
Asia in general is a very filial society, so, the younger generation is very willing and able to look after the older generation, and that's really good. However, that's not something that we can take for granted, because as I mentioned earlier on, there will be more and more older people and less younger people. And nowadays, the younger generation is also moving out and working away from their homes and all that. So there's also kind of challenges to actually even looking after the older generation. So that requires the older people to be physically fit, financially fit, to look after themselves also. This is not just only a challenge in Indonesia, but I think probably Asia at large. Yeah.
So do you think there's a lesson learned for Indonesians aging population to prepare from early stage to prepare for their whenever they're getting elderly?
Yeah, no, I think early preparation is absolutely important. I think in general, we tend to intervene when something happens. But I think the more prepared and the earlier the planning is, hopefully it reduces the need to have an intervention. This applies to physical health, this applies to social health, and it certainly applies to financial health as well. So I think one of the things that we're actually trying to create greater awareness of is, it's like the earlier you start, the better. Early preparation is always better, and don't wait. Secondly, I think, when it comes to looking after the golden ages, it's not only about looking after them, but it's actually about living together with them. Because I think the older generation has a lot to contribute to the younger generation and vice versa. So how do we kind of think about living together across generations versus, just sending off the older generations to be looked after? There's so much that we can enjoy from them and with them. At the same time, I think this also applies to businesses as well. How businesses come together to develop different and innovative ways to address this opportunity and also to benefit from the silver society, the silver economy as well. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And how does DBS collaborate with other stakeholders such as government, NGOs, or private partners to support and empower those actions, especially for vulnerable groups?
Yeah, creating greater awareness of the challenges as well as the opportunities. It's about looking at really the broader ecosystem in totality and seeing that we all have a common purpose, a shared purpose, and what do each of us, what are our respective strengths that we can bring to the table to actually partner one another, to actually create, if you will, change at scale. I think in the past, there's a lot of good efforts, but it's usually in a more siloed basis. But I think coming together, working with governments, working with the public sector, working with other partners, working with our clients, working with our colleagues, because in addition to committing, what DBS did was we committed, $1 billion, almost 13 trillion rupiahs over the next 10 years to support vulnerable communities. We also committed 1.5 million employee volunteer hours over the next 10 years. Yes, yeah. And so it's about, not just about money, it's also about effort, time, talent, and most of all, a sustained commitment.
So no institutions can tackle those issues alone, but it is important to explore how DBS works through partnerships to scale the initiatives, right? And does DBS have a consistent evaluation framework to measure the success of its strategy and programs in creating impact beyond banking? And
Yes.
if it's possible, could you share any measurable result or indicators?
Yeah. We actually, every year, we're a public listed company. We produce our annual report. We also publish a sustainability report. Yeah. So in our sustainability report, all the impact measures from programs that we've rolled out are all published there. And DBS looks at sustainability in a very comprehensive manner. We look at, helping our clients to be more sustainable. So we call that, sustainable banking. We look at our own operations, and so sustainable business operations. And we also look at creating impact beyond banking.
Yeah.
And this is where our colleagues, who are people of purpose, our employee volunteers come in, and the whole efforts and commitment of the DBS Foundation come in. So all those efforts in totality across all our three, what we call sustainability pillars, are published in our sustainability report every year.
Creating impact beyond banking.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah. Beyond borders and beyond generations.
And after talk about actions and also collaborations, the next step we will understand more about how DBS measures real outcomes. So looking ahead, what are the next steps for DBS Indonesia to further strengthen and expand the implementation of its vision to become the best bank for a better world in the coming years?
Right. As we become best bank for a better world, we believe that journey requires us to also become the best AI-enabled bank with a heart. And in order for us to become AI-enabled, all these years, we've started to also focus on the power of data. So of measurements, and also of enabling kind of not just DBS Foundation, but our partners to also measure not just outputs, but also outcomes. So as we kind of look towards collecting that data, tracking milestones, we hope to also implement certain, if you will, social and financial resilience indicators that our partners and ourselves can use in common. It's still work in progress, but we believe that's very important, because ultimately we need a way to kind of ascertain that the programs are not just programs for program's sake, but as I mentioned earlier on, they actually effect change. They actually enable societies to improve. They enable to kind of ensure that one cycle of disadvantage is no longer, and a new cycle, a better and more successful and fulfilled cycle can actually start.
So the keyword is impactful.
Yes.
So with those efforts reflects that DBS strong commitment to creating real and lasting impact, and looking ahead, there's an even bigger opportunity to scale these initiatives further, so the vision of becoming the best bank for a better world can reach, uplift, and also empower even more vulnerable communities. Thank you, Karen Ngui, head of DBS Foundation, for sharing your perspective. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Pemirsa, demikianlah perbincangan kami bersama dengan Head of DBS Foundation, Karen Ngui. Saya Andi Shalini, CNBC Indonesia, Beyond Business.